So, welcome. I want to talk about the seven dimensions of conscious leadership. It's something that I've been exploring and investigating for really quite a while. Really on the basis that the troubles that are challenging most people are new. And that's not to say there aren't the old standard ones, but there's a lot of new stuff. And we talk about the turbulence of AI, financial uncertainty, and all the pressures of social change. So why does this matter? Well, I think the traditional leadership models that people have been brought up with just don't cover it anymore. And what do I mean? So, as I said, there's AI. We're all sort of, I guess, um, uh, challenged by AI or excited by AI or fed up with AI. I don't know. It would be, you know, do use the chat and sort of comment as I go along. I really welcome people to sort of interact and give your thoughts. And when we get to the end, um, then we'll have some time for questions, Q&A. Yeah, Jackie, you like to argue with it. Yes. It can be quite fun depending on which model you're using. Um, but it is bringing about change, and some of it is good, and some of it is not so good, and that's one of the difficulties because you don't know how things are going to uh, be how they're going to turn out because the AI is affecting everything positively and negatively. Social structures are evolving. Well, I think you can just look at the pandemic and what happened during the pandemic and how people have uh, been left, a lot of people, very scarred. The way that things were done induced a great deal of anxiety and fear. And a lot of that has not gone away because of some of the other things that have been happening. Um, our next leaders are still being educated largely using the paradigms of the old ways, and I'll talk about that a little bit more a little later. But we need to change the way that our leaders are being educated. You'll know the financial markets are in really constant flux. Um, and again, it's kind of scary. Um, when Donald Trump was elected, uh, I can't remember the exact numbers, but Elon Musk added several $100 billion to his worth. And that money doesn't come out of anywhere. It's sucked away from the people who really have to work out how they're going to feed themselves and house themselves. So there's this imbalance which is extremely powerful and is having knock-on effects. Then there's a drive to ecology, to sustainability. Where can we, and this whole conversation around growth, which is very strong at the moment, um, and is uh, it's affecting everything. And the most important thing is it's another challenge for a leader. That's the point. These are all new challenges on top of everything from day to day that leaders have been having to deal with for a long time. So fundamentally, we need new ways of leading. And things are speeding up. the pressures are getting greater, and it feels to me like we're in a bit of a pressure cooker, which means that the tensions around leadership, um, the way that we deal with those tensions needs fundamentally to change. And not to forget that change programs, they they largely fail because of the way that they've been set up, and it's actually not very often the fault of those who have to deal with these things. But when you're in an organization and you're trying to change something, it's tough. It really is tough, and there's an awful lot of things that mitigate against success.
Just to add to that, Tom, it may be interesting. I was arranging tests for the mining company Rio Tinto for connectivity and Guinea Conakry with colleagues earlier today. But the most important point I made to them, we need to define what successful proof of concept testing looks like now rather than before or during actually doing it.
Yes. Well, I think we'll cover that a little bit more a little bit later. Um, there are so many aspects of this. So the seven dimensions that I have mentioned, you don't have to try and read this slide. I'm going to go through it in some detail, but essentially, the seven dimensions are not separated out. They're not completely separate. Everything is intertwined. It's like having a ball of wool with lots of threads in it that are all mushed up together. But let's go through them. For the first, I talk about a traditional approach. So it was in 1911 that Frederick Winslow Taylor wrote the book The Principles of Scientific Management. And it's amazing how even today, a lot of business schools still teach this fundamental mindset of seeing human beings as pieces of a machine. And so it it's it's what created this sense of hierarchy. I'm at the top, you do what I say. There is only one solution, and we will do it scientifically. And really, today we've got to be much more adaptive. We've got to be much more flexible. We've got to understand the power of emotional intelligence, and trying to look at things not just as binary, on, off, black, white, whatever it is, but understanding that there's a complexity, and if we don't embrace that, we're never going to get anywhere. So then we look at uh, people trying to understand a problem and focusing on it, and uh, so often you see this in organizations. They say, right, here's a problem, let's fix it. And so they address that problem, which gives them uh, in creating that solution, creates two or three more problems, which then have to be identified, and then you can see there's a sort of a plethora of solutions which are being instituted through very good intentions, but actually um, not actually adding any value really. And what is really important is I think a good way to look at this is if you look at your own human body. If you've got a problem with your knee, you might go to the doctor who says, well, yeah, you've got a knee problem. We'll give you some creams. Da, 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 that doesn't work. So you go back, and eventually he says, right, go to the surgeon. We'll replace your knee. And actually, all the time, the problem has been perhaps a disc that's slightly out in the spine, which is causing the body to uh, alter to make the best of the situation, which then puts pressure on the knee. So if you sort out the back, then the knee problem goes away if you do it early enough.
Yeah, I
And
was thinking of the same example, sorry, Tom, where it really is good looking at medicine because you say, yes, treat the cause, not the symptoms, and careful with the medication you give. Often you find the medication has side effects, so you end up giving other medications to treat those side effects.
yes, definitely. And I've just spent the last couple of, well, it's the last week going up and down to Leeds Hospital and
Mm.
um, seeing some of this kind of stuff going on really in front of my eyes. It's been quite an experience. But we have to look at things systemically. I mean, that's the fundamental about this. We've got to accept that we are part of a system, just like our body is a system, and trying to isolate things and fix them doesn't work. And unfortunately, we see this in the political world a great deal. So then going on from the unconscious to the conscious. So traditional leadership really has been based on well, the behaviors have come from habits, conditioning, unconscious patterns, so that you get a lot of people who are in positions of power and leadership who don't really understand what it is that drives them to do the things that they do. And what we need is, and we'll keep coming back to this sense of self-awareness. If you are self-aware, you can make intentional choices. You can say to yourself, ah, I'm stuck in a pattern here. Got it. uh, I can make a conscious decision about what I choose to do now. I'm aware of my patterns. I'm aware of the way that I might react to a certain situation. Just as Renato, you said, if your cat saw Jackie's dog, there would be a reaction. But as human beings, we're supposed to be more aware of things so that we can make these conscious, intentional choices as opposed to kind of just reacting. Then on to the outer, to the inner. The external focus of people in leadership. I think you can see this quite a lot in recruiting, where organizations look for people with particular skills and knowledge, which you know to a degree we need these, but actually I think there's quite a move in recruiting at the moment for people to say, actually, I want to hire the right human being and the skills we can impart. But what experience does this human being have? And how aware are they of themselves and what drives them, their purpose, and so on, which leads to them taking on people who are actually, I call it authentic leadership. That there's a sense of, um, I was dealing with a company the other day. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was, but they didn't want to hire anybody who wasn't from that business, from that. And yet, when you're looking at particularly senior leadership, what you need are people who have leadership skills and a sense of themselves, which they can then apply wherever they are. It's really a way of engaging with the human being,
And it
not,
was a point, can I say so, Tom, of the telecom world I know, where they would put people into post who were from their culture because they wanted to go for evolution rather than revolution to get to the future faster.
yes. So,
What
um,
about in the case of I work in university support? What about when you're trying to revolutionize and the college or university is going through a period of change, and I tried to revolutionize a department, but there was so much, no, we've done it this way,
Mm.
and resistance to change, and you feel like, well, why did you appoint me to do a role if
Mm.
you didn't want the change?
Yes.
Is you could have done like a survey. And obviously we've had a lot of change. Where DSA has changed since February last year, and actually working online and remotely does help for disabled people like me and for other people. And I have got a dog who's sulking at the moment because I'm in a new chair today and he hasn't sat in it. But in terms of when you've got people who want to be the change and want to lead by example, but you've got people who are very anti-change, you've got to find some kind of common ground, because you can't just state from a bit of paper this is what we want to do. But if you
Mm.
can't actually do it, it's like academic theory. You can hypothesize to the hilt, but do you want it or not?
Yes.
Just something I
It's
wanted to.
quite ironic as an example, Andrew, because I was dealing with Buckinghamshire New University earlier today, and at the
Oh, I know that Henry Court used to be the dyslexia service
that's
manager. She's
good.
very good.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the working level people, they were raising all manner of hurdles. So I went to the
Mm.
vice chancellor, thinking an old thing for me is go to the level of understanding, and
Mm.
immediately he solved all the problems.
All right. That's good.
thank you, and thank you for sharing, Andrew. I mean, there's no question, and actually, dealing with universities is quite a challenge because they're on the whole really quite old-fashioned and use some of the things that we definitely need to move away from, which I'm highlighting. So fifth, rational thinking, which does tend to be binary, uh, and just focusing on facts and figures, we're finding more and more isn't enough anymore. And again, I use this term emotional intelligence, and also cultural intelligence is another aspect of this that I think is really, really important. So, how we make decisions and uh, focusing those decisions on the human beings as opposed to just the data. It's one of the challenges that's coming out with AI is where people program AI to process data. I was speaking with a group of head teachers before Christmas, and they were really excited about AI for recruitment. But then when I started to challenge them about how clever the AI was and how much it how dangerous it is in terms of it making bad decisions because it doesn't take all the parameters into consideration. I think it's a good example of where we need something beyond just rationality. We've talked about the back and the knee and so on, and I think that this is all part of the kind of thinking of leave your personal life at home and come to work and be some kind, you're expected in so many organizations to be some kind of automaton. And it's it's incredibly stressful. So there are ways in which we can be more in touch with ourselves, to hear what our body is saying. And science is just catching up with what the indigenous peoples around the world have known for thousands of years. That in the gut there are effectively brain cells that communicate with the brain and back down, along with the heart. There's all sorts of connections that we have, that we've kind of been taught and grown up to ignore, but they're fundamentally important. And leaders of the future have got to understand what their bodies are saying in any given circumstance. And that, for a lot of people, is a big ask, but it's um, it's a way to gain a greater understanding and access our own inner wisdom. We have such an inner wisdom, but we've been taught to ignore it. And now I know, Renato, you're going to want to add something in here, but um, what I'm talking about here, and of course we are living a complete um, example in the way that Donald Trump is doing things. Um, it's fascinating. There was something in the Times a couple of days ago where they were saying that 52% of Gen Zs want a dictator. They want someone who's just tough, strong, come in and say what needs to be done and do it, or require people to do it. And that is the dysfunctional patriarchal masculine that is being expressed here. And we are in a tough situation where, because we're not teaching people about leadership. We're not teaching them that actually the answers lie within, not without. And actually the way out of our problems today is people taking responsibility for themselves and leading themselves far more than trying to us look for the guru, the one who knows, because we keep getting examples that actually they don't know and they make terrible decisions, and they take people down with them. So we need the balanced attributes of both the masculine and the feminine working together and creating this sense of inclusive strength. This is not about power. This is not about uh, one person winning or one organization winning against another person or an organization losing. That is the old way. It's the competition focus. The only competition actually we need is the competition against ourselves. How am I doing? Am I doing better than I did yesterday? What could I do better today compared to what I did yesterday? Within organizations, you often see that actually the most successful are next door, like a handyman store or something. You can often see two or three next door to each other. And as long as they are doing the best that they can be, actually, they can all thrive. This this is not a game that where we have to play winners and losers. But we base so much of our organizational structures and strategies on sport, where there is a winner and there is a loser. And business actually doesn't function like that. Everybody can be a winner if they're being the best that they can be. Just checking up on the chat. So there you are. There's the seven dimensions. As I said, very intertwined. You saw self-awareness and emotional intelligence appear a number of times there, and that's because they are so important. So, um, to some really, effective change is brought about systemically. If you try and bring about change in through one dimension, you're not going to get anywhere. The core skills are self-awareness and by the way, listening. I often think of the number of senior leaders that I work with, and when you ask them, well, what's your best skill? And often they will say, oh, I'm a really good listener. And then you see the people who report to them looking up and saying, what? Yeah, you're not a good listener. You never listen. So we have to accept that this is a skill. It needs practicing, and it's all part of the self-awareness journey. And if you do that, you can access your inner wisdom, and that is where so many uh, aspects of goodness come from. Um, I think of it was nearly 10 years ago now. I rafted down the Grand Canyon, and it really struck me that before each of the rapids, which are kind of scary, they're depending on the flow of the water, they're pretty powerful. We'd get out of the rafts and then go and recce. And the people who really knew these areas, they could see where the flow was going over certain rocks and stuff. And then we get back into the raft, and really the skill of the leaders in each of the rafts was to line up the raft so that it was going to go down the best route given the flow. And you get to a stage where you're committed. You can't turn around. You've just got to steer this thing in the best possible way so that you avoid the major obstacles, the rocks. And uh, just watching these people doing that, it's like you just have to let go. It's a kind of meditation where you are getting all this input and your body is assimilating it, and you're just making these very small adjustments as you go down to keep the raft going in the right direction. And that is our inner wisdom. And you can apply that in any circumstance. But you have to accept that if you want to hear and access that inner wisdom, there's got to be a level of quietness, a level of serenity in you so that this can be expressed. It speaks with small voices.
Yes, I think Tom, so it goes with what I've mentioned to you before as well, where I found through the journey I've gone through, including when I became craniosacral therapist, that sometimes I say to people, stop trying too hard, just create the space and let it happen.
Yes. Yeah. Well, craniosacral is a very special art, and I've said this to you before, but it is the same stuff.
Yes.
So the way that we navigate AI and all the other technological disruptions that are coming, like quantum computing and so on, all taking us, if they're pointing in the right direction towards sustainability, but um, uh, I occasionally meet people who are just saying, "Well, I don't do anything with AI; it's rubbish," or I'm waiting till they've sorted it out and all this kind of thing. Um, you have to navigate AI. You have to go with it, and it's a flow of its own. And so we have to learn how to be best in the
Mm,
circumstances of the AI around us, and how to make the best use of it. And the best way to do that is to play, is to experiment.
mm. And so, as you said, Tom, you have to watch out what each step leads to, because the most intriguing thing of all is that with the current specification of the quantum computers, they need so much power, each needs to be co-located with a nuclear power station. Yes,
Yeah.
really.
And it's interesting to see what will be happening now with China and the way that they've found that they can do an awful lot of AI um, without using the same amount of power. But that's not quantum
Yeah.
computing.
Nvidia is very upset, yes. And the share value shows it.
And building resilience in financial uncertainty. Well, a lot of that is a mindset. And again, it's that sense of groundedness that we work towards. And then finally, leading effectively through social change. And Jackie, this is your area of expertise. Uh, um, it's tough, and what's going on in the world and has been going on. Serenity and Leadership, we ran a panel before Christmas around what we called the DEI backlash. And a lot of organizations are now pushing away from uh, the demands of social change. And I think there's a really interesting tension between what the world wants and what the leaders of organizations want. And you're seeing this in places like JP Morgan, where they've said that they want everybody back to work. And Donald Trump has just said that for federal workers, he wants them all back in the office. And yet, that's not what the pandemic particularly taught us. So this is a tension that will continue. So I want to talk about leading from within. It's the program that we're running in the context of helping people to really understand and get into these 7 dimensions. So it's 10 consecutive weeks. It starts next Tuesday. This is the next cohort online, and each session is just an hour. And in that time, we come together. People have had a little bit of homework, and we work through the various things that have come up for people. It's a kind of online group coaching program, but just 1 hour each week for 10 weeks. As I said, there's a bit of homework to do for that, and one of the things that we found is that we have a wide variety of people, so there's a lot of potential learning for people from each other. What I really encourage is, and this is an example, this is just the first module. So this is week 1, just an hour. And those are the things that we are going to explore. And of course, in an hour, there's no way you can do all of that. But what we do is we pick up on what people bring to the room. So if somebody has a real trouble uh, with purpose, or their challenge, or they want to learn more about that, then we'll spend some time on that. We talk a little bit about journaling. I really encourage people to journal. And you can see that those are the aspects, and it's all under the heading of know thyself. And just to give you a sense of the 10 modules, having explored knowing oneself, we then look at how can you lead yourself. And then we look at communication in the next module. Then vision. And then finally, we're going to start looking at understanding others. So there's a lot of focus at the beginning about turning the mirror round so that we look at ourselves. And then part of understanding others is, of course, team dynamics. And then navigating AI, social media, future workforces. It was fascinating. In one of the groups that we had an AI prompt engineer, and she brought so much knowledge that the people hadn't known about. So it's one of the beauties of the way that the program is put together. You do get these mixtures. Adaptability and resilience, so we certainly need that, and how to thrive amidst change. Empathy and innovation in leadership. And finally, the 10th module is one, it's longer, it's an hour and a half, and it's where we do a self and peer assessment process where individuals assess themselves amongst the group. And having gone through the 9 previous weeks, what we've done is create a really a fabulous safe space. And so people can really explore themselves and say, well, this is where I started, this is where I've got to, this is what I've learned, this is where my challenges are now going forward, and so on. And then they get peer feedback. It's a beautiful process, and I think some people have been a bit scared going into it, but they've really loved the way that it builds them up, and it's a fantastic completion of this journey. So, what do you get out of that? Well, you will definitely be more self-aware and understand. Perhaps your vision will have been broadened. You will have I think congruent is a tricky word, but I think when people meet you and they see you and they get who you are, that sense of congruence comes from a place of inner peace, actually. And so you should be more centered. Um, People will see you more, which makes you more inspiring and attractive. You're more dynamic, clear-sighted, and wiser. And that wiser is I think it's opening the door to the wisdom that you already have. We will have explored the masculine and feminine balance somewhat. And I think that people who've been on the program really feel like uh, they've explored more of themselves and understand the aspects of the masculine and the feminine, which are um, uh, they can bring together in a more balanced way. And as someone said, more of everything you want to be, which is different for each person. So, as I've said, 10 consecutive weeks, an hour session, some pre-reading, delegates from a wide, and afterwards we have an alumni group, which is quite active as it's growing, but it's a great way of having support from different people as you go forward, so that you've worked with these people, they've covered the same kind of ground, and they can bring some of their challenges and see what the group can do to help them. For those that need these things, there's an attendance certificate, and the full price for the whole thing, the whole program is £725. But there's an early bird price, which is until midnight of Monday next week. It's 650. So if you want to scan a QR code because you're really excited and you'd like to join us, there it is. And I've put the link also in the chat. And that's really what I want to say. And so I invite questions, comments on what this says to you. I don't know, Andrew, how your challenges are, how you resonate with what I've said, given your challenges.
Well, it's quite interesting because we have our day-to-day challenges in terms of how things can change. So it's 4 years since I lost my grandmother. It's 2 years since I lost my father to cancer, and 4 years since I lost my previous Bichon. And in terms of how things are day to day, that's very different. But in terms of in the workplace, working remotely, I think because it's now 5 years since I was last in a university classroom doing any kind of formal teaching in a classroom, there is this kind of isolation. And I mean, I do occasionally get out. Like I have one client now who lives in Ipswich, but she's finished her course. And so I had only one student for the whole academic year traveling out and about. So you don't have that kind of connectivity. But I do go to some social groups. So I am quite, a regular at the Waltham Forest Dyslexia Association. They have various groups. But again, it's online. I am quite lucky in that where I live in Essex, we have got two disability groups. But I think in terms of my thing is that I feel like it's 5 years of online. What's going to happen? I know probably I'm going to be working for another 30 years. I'm at least because I'm 41, and the way the things are going and pensions are not what they used to be, as my late grandfather, who passed away in 2018, he would say. But in terms of, it is kind of bringing up some ideas, but we don't know. I mean, the government might decide with to change the DSA again. You never know. So it's kind of just been that ready, and I don't know. I feel that things are moving, but it's quite hard because we have clients for my company that are 50, we cover 50% of the UK. So I am lucky. So I'm seeing what's going on down in Devon. I've got people in Birmingham. I've got a few in Scotland, and for my sins, or rather crazily, I'm doing my fifth degree part time at the moment as well. But in terms of studying online, that's very effective because obviously just kind of doing a Teams call, and I know it's a shame that your Tuesday thing is going to clash with my course class because maybe next time round or after 2027, or if your course is ever on a different day. But in terms of where I am, I feel that you develop skills, you develop these relationships with people, and it is nice to, LinkedIn is quite good in actually the fact that many people can collaborate and you can connect with people. There are quite a few people on LinkedIn who I've never actually met, but it's good when you connect and, having the ability to do things in a virtual way. But in terms of my challenge, is I want to get, for me, I want to get into like a team leader position, but there isn't such a position at the moment. But we don't know. One of my colleagues may well leave. She has become a grandmother. She has moved. You don't know. But we don't know. No one knows what the future holds, but we can make our own destiny.
You
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to, you have to, you have to, I mean, this is part of what I'm saying, really, is that you have to define your own purpose,
Mm.
your own,
Yeah.
and that's important. So I'm sorry that the days don't fit for you, but we must stay in
Mm.
touch because
Yeah.
um, sometimes we run it on a Wednesday, sometimes we run it on Thursday. So
Yeah, Thursdays would be good. The project I'm doing at the moment has literally they had their last leadership and neurodiversity strengths mini lecture for me last night for an hour, and that was kind of the end of the project. And yeah, so yeah, I'll let you know. You know, things may change next term because I mean, this year's modules we started in January, and it finishes, and you know, it might be a different day next term, but I definitely
well,
would be
well,
interested. Yeah,
well, good. And so we must stay in touch. We must
yeah.
stay in touch and see what they.
Mhm.
Jackie, I think you were going to say something.
I mean, from am I off mute? Yes, I am off mute. Uh, that age-old adage. I mean, for me, I definitely think it's something that I want to be able to do without a shadow of a doubt. You know my background, Tom. I've driven this agenda from a DEI perspective or EDI perspective, whichever way you want to describe it as. And it's something that I do see a lot of parallels with the similar sort of thing, as I said in the chat, because we have the 6 signature traits of inclusive leadership, which aligns very, very, very closely. Absolutely. Can I do it this immediate time? No, because I've got to go and teach the Americans how to do DEI in the right way. Um, but absolutely, it's something that I feel there are opportunities to be able to bring that parallel in, if that makes sense.
Great, great. Yeah, well, we'll have to talk more about what you're going to do in the States. It sounds really interesting. So, uh, Bhaskar, I don't know whether I don't know where you are. I suspect. Well, tell me. I don't want to guess. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Bangalore, India at the moment.
Bangalore. I'm
So
going to.
yeah. So it sounds very interesting to me because as a leader, I mean, as a person, I work for a boutique chartered accountant firm, and I work as an accountant, and I get to lead a bit as to what I do. So take up initiatives and do get things done and those sort of things. But sometimes I do feel a bit lost. I mean, that is, I don't know what I should really be doing. So I was a business analyst before. So yeah, and also I have a group of people. I mean, I tend to sort of act like a leader or something like that. But yeah, I'm not too sure as to which direction I should take. And leading from within sort of resonates with me because that says, am I listening to my inner self? And this thought about going into your subconscious mind and asking where you belong, who am I, and what I need to be doing. Because I was a business analyst before, and I'm an Australian citizen. So I used to live in Australia for about 8 years, and I've come to India because of some health issues and also familial issues. So yeah, in terms of finding the right track again, I feel a bit lost, but frankly speaking, maybe I need to wait for a bit before taking up whatever I mean, yeah, maybe we can have a chat, Tom.
Yeah,
I have booked in for a chat on the February 7th at around 9:15 p.m. Indian time.
great. Good.
Yeah.
I saw that earlier on. So that would be good. Yes, let's have a chat and to explore more about uh,
Yeah.
what's right for you now.
Yes.
So I'll hold my comments until we have a chat.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I don't know whether well there's Rena of I didn't know whether you wanted to say anything. I guess you're in the Philippines. But I've sent you a note just there. So
I am from Egypt, Mr. Tom,
yeah,
and
you,
all skills and knowledge. This course, I have taken with Ernest and Young period. Okay, and Ernest and Young have all knowledge and our courses for me from Go Fluent and any skills and any courses related to Microsoft Office. So I think EY could complete all my skills related to Business courses. And at the same time, I have exam related to CPA. Okay, and I promise you, after the finish CPA certified, I can join with you after the certified.
Okay, so it's quite hard to hear you. There's an awful lot of wind noise, and you're sitting outside in some
Oh, sorry,
exotic
because
place.
I am on beach in Hurghada, so the weather is. I'm so sorry, Mr. Tom.
Well, look, why don't you set up a call with me, and we can discuss what's right for you and the timings. Um, so let's do that. And Renato,
Mhm.
last but certainly not least, we're just coming up to the end of the hour.
Thank you, Tom. And the answer is yes, I think it could reinforce some of the good things I'm already doing and also open my mind to some of the things that I've yet to realize and adopt.
Mm,
And in turn, Tom, could I put a thought to you?
please.
Yes. And well, two parts, if I may. The first one was my mind has been too creative this week. So every time I looked at the title of this event, I thought somebody at some stage is going to say to you, how do you play the seven with the seven deadly sins? Yes. Yes. And then the second thought is, have you thought with the program, and maybe this would be the time when, in addition to running the program, you could be one of the delegates as well. Is that too radical a thought?
Well, I enjoy your radicality, if that's a word, Renato. I'm just trying to think of the mechanics of that.
It's a challenge, but the greatest failure is not to try. So maybe worth thinking about.
Well, let's learn to walk before we try and run, I think is where I would say with that.
Yes, but I've assumed you've been running for a while.
Yes, yes. But each group is very different. And
It
so,
depends on the group very much, yes.
yeah, the dynamics of the group. And so, yeah. All right, well, I'll take that one away. I'll put it in my pipe and smoke it.
Perfect.
So I think we've run the hour. I don't know if there's anybody who wants to make a final comment. Otherwise, I'm going to thank you all for having been with us and to um, wish you a wonderful evening or night, Bhaskar.
Thank
So
you.
much for your time.
And thank you all for coming.
Maybe, Tom, as a final, I promise, thought, in the years you've run the program, would you say there's been any significant change of focus over the years that's worth being aware of?
I agree with you.
But I think ideas have developed
Yes.
and advanced. Is the way I would put that, because I think the whole systemic approach, is more mature now. The connections with the body and the way that people interact with their own bodies, I think it's much more developed as a concept. Although, I mean, for some people, it's been forever. But I think,
So it's good you can see it's a living program rather than the example you gave the politicians always doing the same sort of thing.
yeah, we have to.
We evolved to survive. Yes.
Well, we have to. And it's really, really important. I think it's really important because a lot of the leaders in the world have not evolved, and it is casting a harsh light on us as individuals and really encouraging us to think for ourselves.
Yes, and it really saddens me the number of world leaders I've dealt with over the years, especially in parts of Africa. And I've seen with some corporates in the UK and US though as well, they surround themselves eventually with their yes people. So
Yes.
not the people who tell them what they really need to know, so they
Yes.
know to do the right things, but no, just the people who play lip service to them.
Yes. Well, as ever, you introduce much wisdom, Renato, and thank you for being here. I will I'll hope to speak to a number of you, and please do um, go on to Calendly, and I'll just put it on here, and book a call with me, and let's have a conversation.
Yes, and I do hope, Tom, you can maybe make Leeds Hospital one of your candidates to learn leadership then.
Oh, gosh, yes, yes, I'd like to do.
Yes, because you know I'm doing it with some of the NHS trusts and the Cromwell I'm members of.
Mm.
Mhm.
Well, there's perhaps a conversation that you and I could have about that.
Yes.
I'd love to help you and to contribute if I can.
Okay.
Thank you all. Go well, go safely,
Thank
and
you.
be in touch.
Have a nice night.
Cheers all. May see you again.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao. See you.
Ciao,
Good night.
bene.